kind stranger pays for her coffee when her card was declined. Unaware, she was the millionaire CEO who'd been watching all along. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. The city wakes under a gray morning sky, its breath visible in plumes of steam rising from the streets. Commuters march with determined steps, clutching their coffees like armor against the cold. Amid the clamor, one woman enters a corner café, her presence sharp and commanding even in quiet moments. Rachel Donovan is no ordinary customer. She's the CEO of Donovan Corp., known for her precise decisions and unshakable focus. Today, though, there's fatigue behind her eyes, a heaviness that no designer coat can hide. Inside, the cafe hums with impatient customers and the hiss of steaming milk. Rachel moves with practiced efficiency, ordering her usual black coffee. But when she reaches for her card, something unexpected happens. The transaction fails. The red error light blinks, a small, humiliating siren in the crowded shop. Rachel stiffens. Her fingers fumble for another card. Again, the refusal. Around her, the line grows restless. She can feel their eyes, the silent judgment, the whispered annoyance. She, who commands boardrooms with ease, finds herself powerless at the counter. Then, before she can speak, someone behind her steps forward. There's no drama in his gesture, no expectation of gratitude. He simply offers to pay. Caleb is unremarkable at first glance. His clothes are worn, his shoes scuffed. But there's a steadiness to him, a quiet certainty that cuts through the awkward silence. He pays without hesitation, nods politely, and collects his own coffee. Rachel is left stunned, the cup warm in her trembling hands. She turns, hoping to catch his eye, to say something, anything, but he's already leaving. The door swings shut behind him, bell jingling once before silence returns. Outside, the city devours him. He blends with the crowd, disappearing before she can even ask his name. No introduction, no request for thanks. Just one human gesture in a world that rarely pauses for kindness. Rachel finds a seat by the window, her coffee untouched. She watches the street, scanning every figure that passes. But he's gone, and all that remains is the echo of the moment. For someone who measures everything in risks and rewards, the simplicity of his act unsettles her. She feels something she hasn't in years, genuine gratitude, maybe even curiosity. Who was he? Why did he help? Did he see her embarrassment? Or did he just see a person in need? These questions circle her mind as the cafe returns to its routine. Cups clink. Orders are called. Life moves forward as if nothing happened. But for Rachel Donovan, everything feels different. She checks her phone, reflexively scanning work emails, but the urgency has faded. The world outside the glass looks colder than before. Or perhaps she's simply more aware of it. She leans back in her chair, thoughtful. A CEO who controls empires, paused by a stranger's simple act of generosity. It's a reminder she didn't know she needed. Power can't buy decency, and even the mighty can be humbled by grace. She makes a silent promise to herself, not to forget this moment, because sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest weight. And sometimes, a chance encounter is the beginning of something neither person can yet imagine. Days later, the corridors of Donovan Corp. Are alive with quiet urgency. Resumes stack high on recruiters' desks, a steady flow of ambition passing under watchful eyes. Among them lies one that nearly goes unnoticed, Caleb's. It is a modest document, solid skills, dependable experience. But there's a gap, months unaccounted for, a blank space where employers want certainty. To the hiring manager, it's a red flag, not worth the risk in a company built on precision and reputation. The rejection is swift, clinical. Yet the story doesn't end there. By routine or chance, his resume crosses another desk, a glass-smooth surface that belongs to Rachel Donovan herself. The CEO rarely bothers with entry-level screening, but something about this applicant draws her in. She studies the paper carefully. The gap stands out, but so does the honesty of it. No clever phrasing to hide the truth, no embellishments. Just a simple acknowledgement that time is missing. Rachel feels an unexpected pull. She remembers the cafe, the stranger's quiet generosity. She doesn't know it's him yet, but the coincidence nags at her. She senses there's more to this story. Curiosity turns to investigation. Rachel has resources, and she isn't afraid to use them. She orders a background check, not out of suspicion, but out of genuine interest. What she finds is sobering. Caleb's missing months are filled with tragedy. A car accident that claimed his wife and child. A man who walked away from his career to bury his family and rebuild his life. No scandal, no wrongdoing, just loss. She sets the file down, fingers resting on the edge as she contemplates. In the world she knows, gaps are weaknesses and emotion is liability. But this man isn't a liability. He's a survivor. She remembers the way he paid for her coffee without hesitation, how he disappeared into the crowd with no expectation of thanks. A man who'd lost everything, yet could still offer a stranger kindness. The office outside her door continues its relentless rhythm. Keyboards clacking, phones buzzing. Decisions made in seconds, careers built or ended on small details. Rachel knows she can reject him without a thought, keep the machine running smoothly. But she can't. Not this time. She closes the folder with quiet finality. She makes a note for her assistant to contact him, but not for a standard interview. She wants to meet him herself. She wants to see the man behind the paper, to understand the truth of him. It's a risk. CEOs don't typically meddle in hiring for low-level roles. It invites questions. It exposes vulnerability. But Rachel doesn't care. She's learned recently that small moments can change everything. Outside her window, the city stretches in all directions. An endless maze of people with stories like his, hidden in the spaces no one bothers to read. She wonders how many have been overlooked, how many chances have been lost. But this one she decides won't be. Rachel Donovan, known for her cold efficiency, feels something she hasn't in a long time: compassion. And for the first time in years, she's willing to let it guide her. Rachel Donovan sits alone in her office, city lights spilling through floor-to-ceiling windows. The folder lies open before her, each line of text cutting sharper than the last. It's no longer just a resume. It's a quiet confession of a life derailed. She reads the details carefully. Caleb's gap in employment isn't laziness or deceit. It's tragedy. A collision on a rainy highway. A wife and child lost in an instant. Months spent in hospitals and funeral homes, then in silence, trying to remember how to live it all. Rachel closes her eyes. She imagines the weight of it, the relentless grief, the empty rooms filled with echoes. It's something no professional reference can explain, no interview question can reach. It's the kind of wound that changes a person forever. She sets the file down, fingers pressed to her temple. She's reviewed hundreds of applicants in her career, dismissed thousands with a single glance. Efficiency was the rule. Business had no place for sentiment. But this time is different. She remembers the cafe, the stranger stepping forward with calm certainty, paying for her coffee when her card failed. She hadn't thought much of it then, beyond gratitude. But now she realizes that moment wasn't charity. It was instinct. Even with his own grief buried beneath the surface, Caleb had seen someone in need and acted without hesitation. He hadn't hesitated to be kind. Rachel exhales slowly. She knows Donovan Corp isn't in the business of second chances. Her company values precision, unbroken timelines, relentless ambition. But she also knows this is her company, her rules. And if she can't make room for humanity here, then what's the point? She reaches for her phone and dials her assistant. Her voice is measured but firm. She doesn't want a standard interview scheduled. She wants a meeting. No panel of managers. No rehearsed questions. Just the two of them. Because this isn't about a job offer anymore. It's about understanding the man behind the paper. Outside her office, the corporate world carries on, unaware. Contracts close. Deals are signed. Numbers are shuffled on glowing screens. But behind the glass, Rachel makes a choice that breaks the pattern. She doesn't want to interrogate Caleb about his skills or challenge him on his resume gap. She wants to hear the story from his own lips. to see if the quiet strength she glimpsed in the cafe is real or just her imagination. Rachel leans back in her chair, watching the skyline. The city is full of people clawing for advantage, rushing past anyone who stumbles. She doesn't want to be one of them. Not today. She reflects on the irony. A powerful CEO who can move millions with a signature, now moved by the simple truth of someone else's pain. It humbles her. Reminds her she's human, too. With a final glance at Caleb's file, she closes it carefully. She isn't offering pity. She's offering a chance. And in her world, that's rarer than gold. She knows he might refuse. He might not want the reminder of everything he's lost. But she has to try, because in that coffee shop, he gave her dignity when she needed it most. Now it's her turn to return it. Rachel issues the invitation, clear and direct. Not to discuss the job, but to talk. To listen. To see the man who survived the worst day of his life and still found it in himself to be kind. The office is silent except for the ticking of a sleek brass clock. Sunlight slants through tall windows, painting geometric patterns across the floor. Rachel Donovan waits behind her polished desk, eyes fixed on the door. She isn't reviewing spreadsheets or fielding calls. She's waiting for a conversation that feels more important than any deal she's closed. Caleb enters, looking slightly uneasy. He scans the room, taking in its cool modern lines and subtle luxury. It's not the space he expected to be summoned to. He stands straight, shoulders squared, bracing for the typical interview. Rote questions, veiled judgment, polite dismissal. But Rachel doesn't even glance at his resume. It sits untouched on the corner of her desk. Instead, she studies him, seeing not just the man who applied for a job, but the stranger who paid for her coffee without fanfare. She gestures for him to sit. The chair creaks slightly as he lowers himself into it, posture tense, hands resting on his knees. Outside, the city hums with relentless energy, but inside, the room feels insulated, private. A pause from the world's rush. Rachel opens the conversation with unexpected simplicity. She doesn't ask about his skills or gaps in employment. She asks about him, about loss, about starting over. At first, his answers are guarded. Years of holding back pain have made confession unnatural. But her listening is steady, unflinching. She isn't looking for excuses. She's looking for truth. Gradually, words come easier. He describes the accident, the aftermath, the silence that followed. The day he realized he couldn't keep hiding from life. She listens without interruption, eyes unwavering, a quiet promise that he's heard. In this room, grief isn't weakness. It's a testament to survival. Rachel shares, too, not in detail, but enough to make it clear she understands cost. She talks about building an empire while losing parts of herself along the way. She admits she isn't always proud of the choices that got her here. For a moment, the titles fall away. CEO, applicant. They're just two people acknowledging life's sharp edges. The silence after their exchange is heavy, but not uncomfortable. It's respectful. It means nothing more needs to be said. Rachel leans forward, hands folded. She tells him she wants him at Donovan Corporation. Not just because he's qualified, but because the company needs people who understand what it means to fight for a second chance. People who won't look away from someone else's struggle. Caleb is quiet, processing. He didn't come here expecting charity. He expected rejection. The offer hits him like an unexpected warmth in winter. He nods once, slowly, a silent acceptance before he finds his voice to say yes. They stand. Rachel extends her hand, and he takes it firmly. It's not just a contract, it's an understanding. A promise that this is the start of something new. Outside her office, the company continues its frantic pace. Deals close. Phones ring. But inside, something shifts. A door opens where others would have closed. A second chance is granted freely and without condition. As Caleb leaves the office, he carries not just the offer of employment, but the weight of being seen, really seen, for the first time in a long while. Rachel watches him go, knowing the choice she's made isn't standard practice. It's not safe or expected, but it's right, because sometimes leadership means more than making profits. It means making space for people to rebuild. Donovan Corp thrives on precision and speed. In its glass towers, every meeting has an agenda, every employee a goal. When Caleb steps onto the floor for his first day, eyes follow him, curious about the newcomer who skipped the usual vetting process. He doesn't come in trying to impress anyone with grand speeches or credentials. Instead, he listens. He studies the systems, learns the routines, and quietly picks up the slack others overlook. When a coworker struggles, he offers help without fanfare. He remembers names, notices details, makes people feel seen. At first, there's skepticism. Some think he's temporary, a pity hire who'll vanish when he can't keep up. But those doubts fade quickly. He takes the toughest tasks without complaint. He's patient when mistakes happen, calm under pressure. Gradually, his team sees he isn't here to compete. He's here to contribute. Word spreads. He earns a reputation not through authority, but trust. For every problem he solves, he asks nothing in return. When the workload piles up before a deadline, he stays late without being asked. When a junior analyst panics over an error, he talks them through the fix instead of reporting them. Meanwhile, Rachel watches from her office. She doesn't hover or micromanage. She simply observes. She sees the subtle changes on the floor, lighter conversations, fewer conflicts. People work better because Caleb reminds them to treat each other like people, not obstacles. She schedules regular check-ins under the guise of progress meetings. But those conversations aren't about metrics. They talk about the work, but also about what drives them. She asks about his ideas for improvement, genuinely curious. He challenges her in small ways, pushing for changes that help the team, not just the bottom line. These meetings become a quiet ritual. They start formally, but always end with something personal. She confides struggles she doesn't share with anyone else. The pressure to keep the company growing, the loneliness of leadership. He listens without judgment, offering a perspective shaped by loss and rebuilding. Their bond strengthens, not with declarations or drama, but with consistency. She respects him for refusing to exploit his second chance. He respects her for giving it freely and trusting him to define its value. In boardrooms, Rachel remains the decisive CEO, never showing uncertainty. But alone with Caleb, her guard lowers. He doesn't flatter her or fear her. He tells her when she's wrong. She finds relief in that honesty, in not having to perform strength all the time. Others notice they're close. Whispers circle about favoritism, but no one can argue with results. Under Caleb's quiet leadership, productivity rises, turnover drops. Even the harshest critics grudgingly accept he's earned his place. Rachel knows there's risk in growing too attached. She's built walls for good reason, but those walls feel less necessary when she's talking to him. She sees in him the strength that comes from being broken and choosing to heal anyway. Caleb doesn't ask for her trust. He earns it, day by day, conversation by conversation. In a company that measures everything in profit and loss, they build something unquantifiable, respect, understanding, and a bond neither of them expected. Donovan Corp continues its relentless climb. But beneath its steel and glass, something softer, more human, begins to take root. A reminder that companies aren't just structures or strategies. They're built by people who choose, even in the hardest moments, to care. The office after hours is quiet in a way it never is during the day. Desks sit empty, lights dim to pools of gold. The city beyond the windows a blur of neon and headlights. Rachel stays late, reviewing reports that refuse to balance. Stress tightens her shoulders, the pressure of every decision resting squarely on her. She barely notices the knock at her door. Caleb steps in, hesitating on the threshold. He's finished for the day, but lingers, sensing something in her posture. He asks if she's all right, voice low, careful not to intrude. She doesn't dismiss him with her usual calm authority. Instead, she exhales sharply, setting her pen down with a tremor she can't hide. For once, she admits she isn't fine. She tells him about the looming deadlines, the fear of failure she can't show anyone else. He listens without interrupting, not as an employee, but as someone who understands carrying unbearable weight. When she falters, he doesn't offer platitudes. He acknowledges that what she does is hard, that it costs something she rarely allows herself to name. Rachel looks at him then, really looks. She sees more than the man who paid for her coffee or the employee who transformed her team. She sees someone who refuses to look away from pain, hers or his own. There's a silence between them that feels heavy but honest. The usual barriers don't rise. No corporate roles to play, no guarded expressions. Just two people admitting life hasn't been easy. She tells him about sacrifices she's made for the company, relationships lost, the loneliness of command. Her voice cracks, and she doesn't bother to hide it. Caleb doesn't flinch. He tells her about waking to an empty house, about learning to keep going when there was nothing left to hold on to. In that exchange, something shifts. The air feels charged with understanding. Not pity, but recognition. They know each other's shadows. They've seen what survival costs. Rachel feels something unexpected and terrifying. Relief. She doesn't have to be invincible with him. He accepts the flawed, uncertain parts of her she hides from everyone else. And in Caleb's gaze, she sees no fear of her power or status. Only respect. Only the certainty that he'd stand beside her even if she had nothing left to give. They don't speak of love outright. It hangs in the space between them, unspoken but undeniable. It's there in the softness of their voices, in the way their eyes hold. When she reaches out, fingers brushing his, it isn't calculated. It's instinct. He takes her hand carefully, as though afraid to break the moment. The warmth of his palm is grounding, steady. She tightens her grip, silently asking him not to leave her alone in this rawness. He doesn't. Outside, the city roars on, oblivious. But here, in this quiet room, two guarded hearts find a fragile truce. For the first time, Rachel allows herself to hope for something more than professional success. Something human. Something real. Caleb's kindness isn't just an act. It's who he is. And Rachel realizes she doesn't just respect him for it. She loves him for it. And in the glow of that admission, she finally lets herself be vulnerable, knowing he'll be there to catch her if she falls. Morning light spills through Donovan Corp's glass walls, casting long, clean lines across polished floors. The building hums with quiet purpose. Meetings convene, deals are struck, the machinery of business turns as always. But for Rachel Donovan, today feels different. She stands by her office window, watching the city below. Once, she saw only opportunity in its crowded streets, a network of leverage and advantage. Now she sees possibility of another kind, a world where second chances aren't liabilities but opportunities for change. Caleb walks the floor with calm confidence. No longer the uncertain newcomer. He's part of the rhythm here, trusted and respected. She's built behind for a few precious hours. They walk through the city streets, unguarded. No titles, no obligations. Just two people who found each other when they weren't looking. At a quiet corner, they stop. Traffic passes in slow waves of sound. Streetlights glow against the darkening sky. She reaches for his hand. He takes it without hesitation, their fingers interlocking naturally, as though it was always meant to be this way. The camera would hold on that image. Two hands joined, silhouetted against the blur of city lights. A promise of something lasting. A new beginning neither of them thought they'd get. Kindness brought them here, a simple act in a coffee shop when the world looked the other way. It was enough to change the course of two lives. Enough to remind them both that second chances aren't given, they're earned. And when offered, they can heal even the deepest wounds. Rachel and Caleb don't claim to have it all figured out. But they know this. Love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to see each other fully, flaws and all, and deciding to stay anyway. As they walk on, hand in hand, the city breathes around them, alive with possibility. Proof that sometimes the smallest gesture can open the door to everything. If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. Also, let us know where you're watching from, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you think about Rachel and Caleb's journey, from that first chance encounter to building trust and finding love. Did their story of second chances and quiet kindness move you? We'd love to hear your reflections. Your support helps us keep sharing powerful tales of connection and hope. Don't miss out on future stories that remind us all how a simple act can change everything.